Hi there.
That's great.
Oh, yes, I did. Yes, that was exactly what I was trying to
No, he's been along the trail.
Yeah, I added the high edges into this weed and jewel workers enjoy that. But Omega has she'll learn questions. That's the questions.
Okay, Omega, you ready?
It was a reminder, that's what we covered in those questions.
Oh.
I had a slide to show.
Recording in progress.
Monday.
Does anybody want to turn their mic on?
I gave Monday.
Yeah, you can always pass.
Well, okay. Okay, it's 6 o'clock. We're in the city council chambers. We'll go ahead and start. Omega, can you call roll?
George.
Here.
Buckles.
Present.
Allen. Here. Flynn.
Here.
Hebert. Here. Houston.
Present.
McElroy.
Here.
Okay, did we get any public comment cards?
We have not.
Okay, so then, next up, we've got, Abisha to talk about the West Valley Opportunity Zone. You wanna come on up here?
You bet.
Oh, thanks, Nate. Almost.
Is it on?
See, there's yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor, City Councilors. I appreciate you inviting us to give you an update. So today Omega has a slide deck that she's gonna be running for me. We'll do some more teamwork. And we're going to cover two topics today. Well, two sort of basic areas. The first is going to be, ooh, that's a fun looking rendition of the slide. I will explore this together. So first what we're gonna do is cover opportunity zones. It's probably a term that you all have heard. We've talked about place-based incentives in the past. It's a timely conversation, so we will review the opportunity zone. And then I will turn it over to Eric Anderson, the president of SEDCOR, who will offer a general sort of SEDCOR and regional updates. So again, just for the record, my name is Abisha Romano. I work for the Strategic Economic Development Corporation, better known as SEDCOR. We're the regional economic development organization serving Marion, Polk, and Yamhill counties, and we have a focus on traded sector business development. All right, so again, I'm gonna cover opportunity zones. We'll dive into what they are, how they benefit a community, and the redesignation process. Next slide, please. All right, so what is it? It is a federal program that incentivizes investment into low-income or economically distressed communities. The zones are identified by census tract, and it allows tax breaks for investors. So how does it work? Essentially, somebody who would become an investor has some sort of asset that they sell. That asset that they've sold might be subject to capital gains tax. Instead of paying those capital gains tax, they put those dollars into a certified or a qualified opportunity fund. That qualified opportunity fund makes an investment into a project inside an opportunity zone, and that investor gets to benefit from the tax benefits, right? So is that simple enough? They sell an asset. Instead of paying the taxes on that, they invest in a project in a community like this one, and then they don't end up having to pay all of the taxes. The longer it's in there, the greater benefit they get. Okay, next slide. So what's the benefit to the community? Again, this is a federal program, and it was initially developed in about 2017, implemented 2018. The idea was to get high net worth individuals to invest in especially rural development by giving them a tax break. So the intention is to boost business growth, job creation, housing development, and long-term community revitalization. So what are the qualifying project types? Generally, it's new construction or something that is substantially improved, so a substantially improved building. And this is not an all-inclusive list of the types of things that qualify, but housing development, mixed-use developments, industrial facilities, office and commercial space, hotels and hospitality, I think about in the city of Sheridan, the two downtown buildings, the Hyder and Huntley building, those types of buildings would be the perfect type of investment for an opportunity zone. We have seen childcare also get invested in. We've seen quite a few hotels have approached us with inquiry on this, just because they're sort of more informed oftentimes about federal programs. But it could be a number of things. Next slide. All right, I'm a visual person, so I gave you a really, really bad visual. But what I'm trying to do here is show you where the line is in Sheridan. So Sheridan is currently inside an opportunity zone, or at least the western portion of Sheridan is. So the census tract that runs up the center of Bridge Street, and you'll see it sort of cuts over. You can see that if you're closer, huh, Jim? We expect you to tell everybody what you see. So the entire west side from this line of Sheridan sits inside an opportunity zone that is shared with Grand Ronde and Willamina. So for the folks in the room from Willamina, the portion of Willamina that is in the current opportunity zone is the Yamhill County side of Willamina, and that is where the dividing line is. It's the Yamhill County side. So again, this was designated in 2018. So why is it relevant now? Well, because it is under review currently. The zone redesignation is currently in process, and I'll run you through the timeline of that here. So the original zone, again, was developed in 2017. That's the census tract number for those of you that like to geek out and search interesting things while you're trying to fall asleep. And it currently expires at the end of this calendar year. So what is the Opportunity Zone 2.0 application process? As of June 4th, 2025, the new legislation was enacted. That's the federal legislation. In April, the nomination window opened. In May, the Grand Ronde community, so the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde, actually made tribal application for Opportunity Zone 2.0. From July 1st through October 1st, is the governor's nomination window. So the federal government said, we want to reinstate opportunity zones, and we want to make them permanent. They did a census tract review and said, these are all of the census tracts in the nation that qualify. There was then a process at a state level to say, how do you want to put forward the census tracts that qualify? The state of Oregon said, well, we're gonna let all of the local jurisdictions determine if they have a census tract that qualifies, whether they would like to make application for that census tract. Recognizing that we are going to have fewer qualified opportunity zones in this next round than we had in the previous one. So there is a selection process, and some people might say that it was a competitive process, though there's qualifying factors. We found that there were some qualified census tracts where it didn't make sense to make application because there was no developable land, for example. So why would you make application if there's no land to develop? Those sorts of things, right? But the communities and the regions came together and in different ways and said, how is it that we sort of put our best foot forward and nominate the tracts that we would like to see get elected? In this process, there is also a dual path process that looks just a little bit different for our tribal nations. Our tribal nation partners were able to put forward uncontested application of the zones that they would like to see be selected. In this instance, the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde made the application for the existing zone, which is called the Grand Ronde Opportunity Zone that you sit in. So there was an application made to the state. Then we talk about this July 1st to October 1st timeline. That's when the governor gets to review all of the applications and will ultimately select about 25% of the total zones that were eligible. I don't know what the percentage of the applications made was. And then, as of the 1st of next year, so January 1st, 2027, Opportunity Zone 2.0 goes into effect. Does that make sense so far? Okay. Next slide, please. That's all we got. Cool. Hold on one second. I told you I was having, no more visuals for y'all. I was having IT problems today. I appreciate your team walking through this with me and trying to help me. I'll make sure y'all get a copy of this as well. All right, so I go on to talk about what's new. I already mentioned that the program has been made permanent at a federal level, and it has 10-year cycle. So in the beginning, it was a 10-year program. It was sort of a pilot of a program. Now it's a permanent program with a 10-year renomination cycle. There is stricter zone eligibility, which means there's fewer zones nationwide. Instead of a fixed end date, the 2.0 program offers a rolling 5-year deferral from the date of investment. There are also expanded reporting and transparency requirements. So one of the issues with 1.0 was that it's actually pretty hard for us to get information about what investments were made because there wasn't a standardized reporting requirement. Now there will be, and greater transparency. There is a greater incentive to investors to invest, and this is really important for rural communities like yours. There's an automatic 10% basis step up at 5 years, meaning that they get an automatic 10% increase in the benefit of that tax investment if they leave their investment in for 5 years. So like I said, the longer they leave it in, the better it is for them, right? The greater deal it is for them. This Opportunity Zone 2.0 program has a rural bonus to investors with a 30% basis step up at 5 years. And it maintains tax-free growth, so there's no federal capital gains on tax appreciation if it's held for 10 years. So that's pretty interesting. A general sort of, to sum it up, Opportunity Zone 2.0 makes the program permanent, tightens eligibility, boosts rural incentives, improves tax benefits, and requires stronger reporting while resetting zone maps every decade. So, as I mentioned, the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde made a tribal application for the zone that you are currently in. We understand those applications that are made by our tribal nation partners to be uncontested. So you have the greatest likelihood that you will receive an Opportunity Zone 2.0 designation for the Grand Ronde Opportunity Zone. That said, I might count my eggs before they've hatched, but I don't call them chickens. So until we hear from the governor's office that it's been approved, we just sort of hold fast, educate ourselves about the program, and prepare to move forward. When Opportunity Zone 1.0 was first launched, there was a statewide movement to try to create some sort of a central repository for projects. Because how would somebody, whether they're inside our region or outside our region, ever know that somebody in your community, for example, was maybe looking at building a child care center or multifamily housing unit or redevelopment of a downtown building? How would they know it exists? How would they know to invest in an opportunity fund? How would that fund manager know that it exists so that they can inspire investment? And there was, I would say, a couple of good attempts, but nothing that really stuck. And we struggled to figure out how to put these projects in front of these fund managers. What we did find was that individual projects were being funded by individuals that were making the investment. So we had, for example, a winery in the city of Newburgh where the owner of that winery had liquidated an asset, put it into a fund, and was sort of the single investor of that opportunity fund that invested in that new building. And that works. That can be successful. But what we are seeing is a lot more movement coming out of this Opportunity Zone 2.0 program and the learnings of all of us partners in the state saying, we can probably do this better. We can probably market these projects better. We can probably do better at creating some sort of a centralized, either at a regional or a state level, a repository of projects that we can use to attract folks. And that's our intention this go around, is to find a better way of doing that. So it's really important that in our designated opportunity zones, we spend a lot of time identifying what those opportunities are and getting them listed. One thing I forgot to mention was that in Yamhill County, there were 5 zones or 5 census tracts that were identified as potentially eligible, and 4 applications were made, and yours is one of them. All right, I'm gonna turn it over to Eric to go through the SEDCOR updates.
Would we be able to
You
ask?
want Q&A first, or do you wanna do it at the end?
Guess it depends. We could ask both of you questions at the end. Is that?
That's fair too.
Because I
However-
have lots about this stuff. So.
Yeah,
But yeah, Eric, if you want to go ahead and kind of, then we'll ask all our questions at the end.
Yeah, we'll have to go story then.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. Thanks for having us back again. I'm Eric Anderson, President of SEDCOR. We've been asked to just kind of give you an update overall on what the SEDCOR has been up to lately since we last met. So I just have a few highlights. The first one's probably a little more domestic on our side, but we have moved our office. So if anybody had gone through that process, you know, that's takes a lot of time. Our staff, Jenny Kistler, our Director of Operations, organized things so well, but we are now in safe space, renting from the safe folks in one of their buildings in Salem, and got an open house coming up on August 13th, we'll be sure to get an invitation for it. One of the areas that we've been traditionally involved in being in the Willamette Valley is food and beverage and agriculture. You know, to be an economic development organization in the Willamette Valley and not prioritize what we grow and what we make with what we grow would be a mistake. The Oregon Department of Agriculture recently launched a program, a pilot program, and they chose 3 organizations to host what they call regional food and ag development centers. That's to support Oregon food and beverage companies, identify in agriculture and growers, identify ways that we can help them grow, address issues they might be having, ways to expand their markets, and also develop their supply chains. We are one of 3 in the state currently. We hope that right now it is funded through federal funding through the end of the year. I think the Department of Agriculture is looking for ways to continue that on, but it's something we have probably a good head start, a great head start doing, because we just have so many connections with growers and food and beverage companies in the area. That's also something that pretty much hits every corner of the region that we serve, and also gets us out a little bit beyond the 3 counties if there are folks that need some help. The Launch Mid-Valley Regional Innovation Hub, the Regional Innovation Hub program is a Business Oregon program where they're providing resources to help identify what they call innovation businesses, which, you know, is a bit of an ongoing debate as far as what that means. You know, we are trying to promote the idea that it's not just white lab coats and technology, but, you know, there's innovation in every industry, and this provides us with some resources for outreach to entrepreneurs, to get them together for one-on-one counseling. We do coffee clubs for entrepreneurs that just allow them to get together on their own for a facilitated dialogue on how to support each other. We do have actually 2 of those in Yamhill County. One is in McMinnville, one's in Newburgh. We've talked to the tribes about doing something in this region as well, and I think we've tried to do a couple, and probably will continue to offer those up as the opportunity happens. We also do startup boot camps, which is a really intense 3.5 days that folks come in with maybe the skeleton of a business plan, and then at the end of the 3.5 days are able to not only pitch their business, but have a business plan that's ready to go to talk to a bank or talk to other people about financing it and trying to connect them with investors. We also bring investors together with some of the businesses that are an investor or entrepreneurs that are looking for investment, and something called Pitch Willamette. We've got that coming up in October 23rd, October 3rd. And that's always a really good event because we open it up to the public as well, but we work with, ends up being about 8 or 10 businesses that come and practice their pitch. They have about 5 minutes to do so. And at the end of that, we have investors in the room that quite often will commit to either pooling their money together and saying we support number 1, 3, and 5, or however that might be. And they also do make some side deals sometimes that the investor will go up to one of the businesses that presented and say, hey, we're interested in moving forward with that. Launchpad Valley funding, we continue that work through June of 2027. And the McMinnville Economic Development Partnership folks are partners with us on that one and offering that programming here in Yadkin County. We have the SEDCOR Construction Alliance. That's a group that we bring together of the industry. We've done it in the past to engage them, to react around things like wildfire rebuilding. Also to put together the School for the Deaf. There's a program to help the School for the Deaf when that was being built about 10 years ago, 15 years ago now. It's a way to bring the contractors, construction industry together, also work on skills development for future workforce. And one of the program areas that they've been getting more involved in the last couple of years is a program called the Sidewalk Project. And that's an opportunity to train youth on basically how to, on some basic construction techniques to put in sidewalks, working with a community, a small community, and a contractor. And we identify volunteers that come up with everything from some of the concrete that we use down to where we put the waste. It's a great program. Carlton, we just finished our second phase, so next time you're in Carlton, please look down and see the good job that they've been doing on their sidewalks as they extend from downtown. We're currently working with potentially a new project in McMinnville with Habitat for Humanity to connect some of their homes to sidewalks, and we're also looking at IDANA in the Sandiam Canyon. But the nice thing about that is at the end of that, you've got youth that have been trained and have skills that are actually very marketable. In some cases in the past, the first project we did several years ago in Independence, contractors were driving by and throwing business cards at some of the participants because it can be a tough industry, as many of you probably know. The Hive project in Newburgh is the Housing Innovation Village experience. This is a result of the outreach that we had done with several employers in the Newburgh area, really starting when they recognized that we're having trouble keeping and identifying new workers because we don't have workforce housing. Several different types of employers were involved, so it meant several different types of wage rates and housing costs that we were looking at. Working with the Missing Middle Housing Fund and getting a nice investment of funding from Representative Anna Shar in the state legislature. That has led us to this Housing Innovation Village Experience project. It's 10 homes that will be at workforce rate cost, being developed by 5 different developers. Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
There's a flyer coming around about it. Each of them is using innovative techniques. So it could be geopolymer concrete, one of the contractors. One is doing mass plywood and PP. One is doing steel frame. And we're kind of excited about the fact that they're using not only just innovative materials, but innovative construction techniques, even innovative financing to really try to keep the costs down. And the goal is, I don't think we have a date yet, but sometime before the end of the year, we're hoping to have a Street of Dreams type open house. So people can see the different types of houses that are being developed, and we're very proud of the developers that we have attached to this as well, and we want to try to promote what they're able to do. You know us from doing some industrial lands readiness work with the city of Sheridan, and we've used the model that we've done here, and they're talking now with 2 other communities working with that same sort of process of identifying where their lands are that are appropriate for new development, what type of development the communities can look at in the future, what the infrastructure limitations or opportunities are. And we're working right now with the City of Independence and the City of Silverton. So it's becoming something that's it's a great way to just get community involvement, and even with some organizations that we may not necessarily always work with, but a good way to find out what the community actually wants in their area and what the resources are to make that happen. I want to talk a little bit about business retention expansion. That's really the main focus of SEDCOR over the years. And I just want to give you an idea of a couple of the projects that we've been working on, just because I think they're interesting as well. Being an old record collector, this is one that when they came into the office, I jumped on quickly. It's a vinyl record pressing plant called Object Permanence that has started up in Salem. The really interesting thing about this, beyond just the fact that I'm a record guy, is they have connected with a company out of England that has developed a alternate plastic made of sugar beets. And so this has ended up being something that we've been able to involve our agriculture connections on, and working with Oregon State University, and we can identify growers and also help develop that supply chain, so we can get the people that make the polymers, so we can fabricate our own materials here. Which I've got one example of it that was given to me, and you really would never know it wasn't plastic. Alvin Aerospace is a long 50-year-old company out of Hubbard in Marion County. They were recently purchased by a new business, and we worked with them on the enterprise zone. Actually, Object Permanence got an enterprise zone as well for their project. I wanted to bring this one up because if you don't know where Hubbard is, it's off the 99 in rural area of Marion County, and this is a good example of the kinds of businesses we have in the region. Virtually every new communications satellite that gets launched has a product as a part that's made by Alvin Aerospace. So it's one of those things that we always try to promote to the people that we work with and communicate with, that people sometimes have no idea the cool things that are being made in the region and what the reach of those products is. And then finally, quite often communities are faced with industry leaving, and are left with empty buildings, and the City of Independence had 2 of them. And one of the challenges was, okay, how do we get somebody in there? I'm happy to say that after the Forest River company, trailer manufacturer, after they consolidated their Independence operation into Silverton, we relatively quickly had another business to move in there. It's a company called Oregon Mining and Agriculture Fabrication, and they do exactly what that sounds like: big scale equipment for the mining and agriculture industries. We've worked with them on getting some training, some their labor force developed, and also we're taking advantage of the enterprise zone. But it's a really nice fit for the community, and I think that they're very much interested in CTE programs and working with the school district. So I think that's going to be a real win-win for all of us. And then finally, I think we've talked to you in the past about the CPACE program, the Commercial Property Assessed Clean Energy program that provides long-term financing for energy efficiency, renewable energy, water conservation, and seismic retrofitting on commercial buildings, industrial properties, and also multifamily. Yamhill County was the first in our region to go ahead and approve the offering of that program. So Yamhill County's been in the lead in our region, and we're finally getting caught up in Marion County with the City of Salem, which not on the agenda tonight, but buried in the agenda last week was the first reading of the CPACE. So the City of Salem, hopefully by the end of the year, will have a CPACE program in place as well. So happy to answer any questions that you might have.
We'll tag team.
Yeah, thank
Ian, you want to go ahead?
You always ask good questions, don't you?
So with us and having the possibility of the opportunity zone, we already have an enterprise zone, and we already have all the industrial lands over there. Whether or not they're wetlands or not, that would be, if someone's interested, they'll find that out. But is it very likely we would see anything that we have more incentives? We have the zoning for it. I'm just wondering, you know, what we might be able to do going forward, since we've kind of taken some steps to prepare the land there, and then now we've got another zone, another reason to come here. And I know wetlands is, you know, not easy for development, but it's not impossible to develop.
Also not unexpected in this region, so again, I think when we talk with developers that are at least familiar with the area, they, you know, we've always joked that you can find out where the industrial, or the wetlands are by looking at where the industrial lands are, unfortunately. But I think, you know, the way that we look at these incentives and these programs are being able to, they're kind of stackable, and you know, what the enterprise zone will allow is different from what the opportunity zone will, you know, help. So from the perspective of being able to actually, you know, work with an entrepreneur and being able to say, or business, and say, hey, if you look at this space here, you've got the opportunity, the ability to use opportunity zone, you know, funding to invest in a project that may be eligible for the enterprise zone, and then we would, you know, connect them with the other resources around workforce training and business finance and some of the other tools that are out there to help, you know, make those projects happen.
Because they're and seed-based, like you said, that's an option too.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, as part of the role that we do is we sit down with these, you know, with a prospect and, you know, listen to what their needs are and identify, you know, where the sites are that fit their criteria, then also identify if, as Abisha was doing the project here, does that site have the infrastructure, the resources, the assets required by that project? And that's where we try to make the connection there.
Yeah, and I think it's a really good question, Mayor, and I appreciate the question because sometimes communities will say, well, we have these zones, what now? Right? How do we move it forward? What do we do next? And so we're often doing some of that work behind the scenes that we just need to be reminded by your amazing partners and staff to say, hey guys, come forward and give us an update. So a good example would be when Mr. Orloff, for example, purchased the Hydra and Huntley buildings. We connected with him pretty early on. Thank you, Mayor, for that introduction immediately as well. And said, we go through the process of asking, what are your intentions, right? What are you trying to accomplish? And then we look at all of the resources that might be available to help them get there. So for example, those two buildings do sit in the enterprise zone. They also can take advantage of CPACE. The question is, what are you gonna do with the building? And what program will fit for that? So we start using those tools sometimes as a way to encourage a developer to purchase a piece of property, sometimes as a way to encourage a developer to invest even more in that piece of property, to do even more than they thought they could do, right? So CPACE, for example, allows for seismic retrofitting. What it allows for is for a property owner to get funding, to get financed for seismic retrofitting. That's a very difficult thing to get financed for. This program allows for that. So that if you had somebody purchase a building downtown, for example, and they're doing a redevelopment and they thought, hey, we're thinking about, you know, I'm giving you just broad examples. These are things that have happened in the region, but if they said, we want to redevelop it, we want it to be mixed use, maybe it'll have housing, and we say, hey, gosh, you guys could qualify for use of the CPACE program, that might be encouragement for them to say, we're going to do the seismic upgrade now. Or they already had to do it and they were planning on doing it, but we say, hey, if you guys could utilize the CPACE financing, that might give you the ability to make other investments and to actually build out the third floor in phase 1 instead of phase 3. Or if they wanted to put in electric charging stations, or they wanted to put in some sort of other green energy sort of solution, it allows for that sort of financing to do that. So these are ongoing, constant conversations. But since we engaged in the Industrial Lands Readiness Project, we re-implemented the enterprise zone, we're following up with a hopeful redesignation of the opportunity zone. I've had 2 landowners in your industrial park, I like to call it the industrial park, who have reached out to me and run multiple projects by me to say, which of the programs could we utilize? Does it make more sense for us to make this investment or identify partners to make the investment? So some of those long game conversations are in process.
With the CPACE, I know it's usually for building, but that's one finance option, because since our downtown, I know it's a little bit in the, well, I guess it's just the left side, it's an opportunity zone, but
Mhm.
we have in this area of town, you know, there is the floodplain. Over in the industrial area, it's just, you know, potential wetlands, but I imagine CPACE isn't gonna give you financing to develop it to make it floodplain compliant, but CPACE is there, I suppose, to help you fund other things.
Yeah, it
So you
helps with
could-
the capital stack that allows you to say, okay, how can we utilize our funds the best? And if you can, so imagine when somebody's going into a project, just like when you do at home, right? You say, okay, I'm gonna remodel my kitchen. Well, how much is that gonna cost? Well, what if I put in a new sink? All right, how much longer do I need to save for that? Could I get a loan? Could I, take it out of savings? How do I wanna well, now I'm gonna add this. How do I wanna finance that? Well, it's the same sort of thing when you do a larger, more complex, but in simple terms, the same thing where you say, I wanna make this investment, but how might I be able to finance that? How might I be able to leverage this over that, right? So it allows people that are making investment to essentially use the dollars they have that are fungible for the things that they can use them for if they're able to get another piece of it financed in a different, more creative way.
And so if CPACE was an option, and that made private sector funding more attractive for that portion of the project, then that opens up another piece of it for public sector funding that might be at a market rate or lower. And then overall, then that blended rate is better for the business, for the developer.
So potentially with the opportunity zone, then I think adding it up, is it like about a 40% like tax benefit, because there's 10 for there and then 30 for rural, is that would it be 40 total or?
It's a great question. It really more so, Mayor, depends on the length of time of the investment.
Okay.
So if it's in, I gave you some of those numbers for the standard opportunity zone, if we can call it that. If it's in there for 5 years, they get that 10 basis point. In a rural opportunity zone, which this one is, if it's in for 5 years, they get the 30% basis point. But if it's in there for 10 years, they could get 100% of the deferral of the increased assessed value. So it just depends. It depends a little bit on the zone, but mostly the length of time they hold it in the investment.
Is there is kind of advertising this something that SEDCOR would be helping us do, because that, I don't know, that seems like a good reason to develop here. I know the negative is that some of the lands over there are kind of tiny, but
well, but it's good to remember that it's not just for industrial land, right? So the opportunity zone project can support housing development. It can, like I said, it could, if somebody wanted to put in a movie theater and there was a fund that wanted to make that type of community impact investment, it could. So it's all kinds of different opportunity zone fund investments can look like many different things.
But we would work to put them into Oregon Prospector, for example, which is sort of the state database of sites that are available. And when we load information into that, there's a whole area of the different incentives that are available for each site. So I mean, those are the kinds of things we can be proactive with.
our SDCs are low too, I don't know if that helps.
That's a great deal.
So we don't currently have an opportunity zone management program in place with Yamhill County. We don't currently have that in place with the city of Sheridan, for example, but we do have a service contract with the city of Sheridan. And once especially we determine the zone redesignation and how we might think about marketing, we'll absolutely be having those more intimate conversations with Preston and your leadership on how do we effectively market this opportunity zone.
And working with the tribe.
Absolutely, yeah.
Wait, Ian, you were good?
I may have missed it, but I have a couple questions. The line that you showed here is on Bridge Street. My first question would be, it shows it extending, but I don't know how far. Does it include this area here? This is a large empty field currently. Do you know if the opportunity zone includes that?
I can't recall how far south it goes. I think it goes to the county line, but I will absolutely send you that map. I did have a printout. I might actually have one I can it might be right here.
Okay. Part of why I asked
Hold
that
on,
is because we've considered adding this into our urban growth boundary and potentially
Yeah.
expanding our city, which would of course be very valuable for that. and as it stands, if that includes it already, that's great. Which would lead into my second question, which is, is it possible for the Grand Ronde tribe to include more of our city?
That's a great
In the
question
new,
too.
in the new application?
Yeah, so in looking at the map right here, I believe it does extend all the way down to the county line, but I will make sure that I send that out. So it can be a little bit of a finicky map to play with to actually get the street names on it, so I'll try to give you a good snapshot. In terms of extending it, this type of zone does not have an adjacency extension allowance because it is set by census tract.
Okay.
So that is the designated census tract, that is the area and the shape of the zone.
Well, that's unfortunate, we have a bunch of stuff going on right on the other side of the line.
And I think they would have loved to support that if it was an opportunity,
Sure,
because I will say that the Grand Ronde Economic Development Department was very eager to ensure that they were being good neighbors by making application of this zone, and to ensure that they were being specifically good neighbors of Willamina and Sheridan and Yamhill County.
This
So
process,
thank you.
Absolutely.
when we go through this process with the opportunity zones, it's a reminder to us how I have these census tracts.
There are.
And you know, I still don't quite understand the rhyme or reason that's used to try to identify something like that.
Jim?
What's the difference between the enterprise zone and the opportunity zone?
Great question. There's a lot of differences, but go ahead, Eric. You take it.
Let's start with the enterprise zone. The enterprise zone is a state program that's specifically tied to property tax abatement. So that the community applies for an enterprise zone designation. Once you have that, if a business comes in and meets the criteria, traded sector business, sometimes hotels, investing at least $50,000, and if it's a new business, creating at least one job as an existing business, 10% increase in their payroll, it is eligible for that. Because when you go through the application process, you've already had the sign off from the school district and the county and other folks that are part of that. So that's a program that's in place and it's property tax based. When you get into the opportunity zone, it has nothing to do with property tax.
Right, so the enterprise zone, as a reminder, their standard zone is a 3-year tax exemption on the delta, right? So if somebody already owns a piece of property and they're adding onto it, they're putting new equipment and that value is over $50,000, they're still paying their previously assessed tax rate. They just don't pay the taxes on the delta of that improvement for 3 years. And the idea is that they can get that asset working and generating revenue before having to pay taxes on it, right? So it's a 3-year at a standard program tax exemption. And that is directly for that business. The opportunity zone is a way to get other people that are not even necessarily involved in the project to invest in your community. So that is their tax benefit, is that they're not paying capital gains tax on their liquidated asset.
So that's the developer would be the one that would benefit from that.
What are the boundaries for the enterprise zone? Is that the city of Sheridan or?
It's the entire city of Sheridan, and just down the highway all the way to cover also the city of Willamina.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so it is called the West Valley Enterprise Zone, and it covers both the cities of Sheridan and Willamina. It is a shared zone.
Is it the corridor on the highway connecting us to, or is it?
It is,
Okay,
yeah,
I
because
thought it
it's
was. I
connected.
just wanted
It is.
And then, investors. Can somebody say, not me, because it requires money, but if they want to invest, do they invest in a specific project that's going on? Or can they just say, I want to invest in something in the opportunity zone? What do you got? You know, do you have a fund that they can invest into and you direct the money? Is that?
Great question. So in order to make an investment in an opportunity zone, it has to be invested through a fund. There are some larger funds that they're managed by a fund manager, where the fund manager says this fund makes investment in these types of developments or in these types of communities, and might attract investors into a larger pot of funds, and then that fund manager manages those investments. There also is the example, like I shared, where an individual can say, I'm going to liquidate an asset and I'm investing in another asset. So I would like to develop a fund and I'm the sole contributor to that fund. And then that fund has a single project. So a fund can have multiple projects, They can have a single project, but any investment needs to be made through a certified opportunity fund.
Yeah, Michelle. I was able to look up the census tract, and it does include the property to the west of Bridge Street that Ian was asking about.
Oh, okay.
All the way south of, yeah.
Okay.
So we can have more discussion about that, Counselor, if you have specific questions to that property and maybe what opportunities might lie there.
Yeah, that's a large that, could potentially be added in the future to our limits or UGB and.
What's the zoning of that now, do you know? Is it-
Yeah, I'm not sure what the zoning is at the county level, do you know? I hope it's
I
not.
assumed
it's a
that was all
farm.
EFU
Yeah.
out there currently, right? So there was discussion about whether that could be pulled in as a one-time incorporation or whether that could be in the future incorporated, but my understanding is it's all EFU,
Okay.
which is exclusive farm use.
Yeah, we do have our Boston, our other water plant is over here.
Mhm.
But it's, this whole area we've been discussing.
Yeah.
With the owner of the property, potentially expanding the city out there, which would be wonderful, sounds like,
Yeah.
for everybody.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, Jim.
Our veterinarian retired, and there's a nice building sitting right there, that if somebody wanted to come in and be a veterinarian there, it's great for them, but if they wanna come in and buy that building and make something else out of it, or just start with the opportunity zone or the enterprise zone, help them to get things going.
I don't think well, it depends on what the project would be. Enterprise zone is more specific to manufacturing, to
Traded
traded sector, as they call it. So, if a machine shop or some sort of fabricator went in, but that doesn't sound like a good fit for the area, so that probably wouldn't be eligible.
If it were in the opportunity zone, because I'm not exactly sure
It
where
is.
it is in the opportunity zone,
Yeah.
okay. Then it would be one of those things, Counselor, where I would urge you all, I'm not urging you to read all of the documents and fully understand the complexities of these zones,
Thank you.
but to be mindful of the fact that these zones exist. And if you are made aware of somebody making an investment in one of these buildings, that you connect them to us so that we can help them understand what that opportunity might be. Because I personally, right, if I were to come across or someone were to contact me and say, I'm interested in this veterinary clinic in Sheridan, and I think I would like to turn it into, I don't know, right, a community center. What are the programs that might assist me? That's one of the conversations I would have with them, is either are you in a position where you're liquidating an asset and you would like to see if there's an opportunity for you to invest in a fund to give yourself additional benefit for this investment, which again, as I remind you, a lot of these place-based incentives encourage the developers to make a greater investment, right? So sometimes it encourages, if somebody's looking at two pieces of property and everything is otherwise comparable, and we say, but this one is in an incentive zone, and ultimately long-term, these are the advantages to that. Well, we can use it as sort of a recruitment tool to say, hey, the city of Sheridan is open for business in a little bit of a different way than wherever that other property is. Maybe you should consider Sheridan. Sometimes it's saying, hey, you have a 3-phase project. Instead of building that in phase 3, maybe you could build it all in phase 1, because you might be able to utilize this program and this program and this program. That gets more investment on your tax roll faster.
They don't all have to be huge projects. I mean, we always talk about hotels, and thinking of the 440 project in downtown Salem. Little building, relatively little building, 3 stories, I think, historic. Had a Chinese restaurant in it that had been closed for a while. And a developer came in who had experience with the opportunity zone, and it's actually, I think, one of just a couple projects that actually use the opportunity zone in Salem. His idea was, I mean, he fixed the building up. It's an older building, so it needed quite a bit of work in that regard. The main floor, it's still restaurants. It's a
Like a food hall.
food cart, food hall, with a bar in the back. Residential up on the top story, and I think they still have an escape room downstairs. Some other use.
It's a smash room now.
Yeah. Oh, that's
It's a
right. Yeah,
smash room.
smash room.
Yeah.
We go there This week, yeah. So it's a really nice, small scale downtown building project that was able to make use of it. I wanna be sure we leave you with that. If it's a, former vet clinic or whatever else, if someone wants to come in there and do something different with it, doesn't have to be a huge project, it could be something that would fit.
And this is a developer that's very familiar with Sheridan,
Yeah,
who you
that's
all
right.
would be very familiar with. So these folks are in our community doing these
Yeah.
interesting things. And so those that are using these programs are very familiar with them, are watching to see where some of these programs land because they're looking to make these kinds of investments.
Do you get inquiries about projects like this usually after someone's already purchased a property and looking to develop, or do you get some from like realtors or somebody looking at a certain piece of property and be like, before they purchase it, kind of seeing what opportunities there are?
Yes.
Yeah, I would say both.
Alright, cause I'm just wondering other options and like resources to give people if they're looking to come here or thinking about getting a piece of property or something, or once they already have it, like I can talk to, I did, the new owner of the Hyder, cause I knew who he was, but if, I don't know people who were maybe looking at stuff, so I guess if we can get that information out there to people who were selling, cause and I know a lot of the commercial and industrial, I think, over there, I know that firm, is it SVN? It seems like they have, they're selling stuff all over, but, and I know they've been here several, I've met with them a few times when they were trying to sell the Hyder the first time.
So that's a perfect example because during that engagement, we're very familiar with Kurt Arthur with SVN, now Capacity Commercial.
Yeah.
And so when he was looking at that building, reached out to SEDCOR and said, tell me what I need to know.
Okay.
Because we wanna make sure we work as closely as we can with commercial industrial realtors to ensure that their sales flyers include as much of this information as possible as well.
Okay.
So that again, you have a community that has these place-based zones, they have these incentives, they have a community that's working hard to attract business, we wanna make sure that they know that. So we try to work with them to build out those flyers, to include that information, and then once there has been a sale, since we have those relationships with the realtors, they usually hand them off to us. So like, hey, you need to talk to SEDCOR before you make an investment, make sure that you're talking to folks about these incentives. Or they'll pull in Arthur Chucklet from Business Oregon as well.
It's something that needs to be kind of continuously monitored on our part though, because realtors ultimately want to get a sale or a lease. And if it looks like it's gonna go that way without having to sweeten the pot with some incentives and other things, they'll sign a lease, they'll make the deal. So, we're always trying to get in there to remind them that, hey, the enterprise zone, the opportunity zone, these are all things that help you make a sale or make a deal on your property. And it's something that we do pretty consistently.
Any questions about any of the other updates we offered? I know we didn't have a slide to remind you of things on the back side of the Hive image.
I think I'm personally, I'm kind of familiar with a lot of these since I'm at the county, but I think it's nothing too new to me, but I think
You've heard the updates.
Yeah, but Ian, you want to?
You mentioned pitch willamette, which sounds kind of similar to a Shark Tank sort of situation.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that full currently, or could we maybe even find people in our community now to get in on this current one?
We'd love to have more exposure for that, and
Yeah. So
if you've got investors in the community, if you've got entrepreneurs in the community, just let us know. We can be sure that they get shepherded into the system the right way. And that's one of the pieces that we always try to promote is a lot of the sources of investment that we've had from the local folks in this have been folks that have traditionally invested their funding in real estate. And said, okay, how can they do something different that might give back to the community in a different way? Being able to participate in something like the Willamette Angel Fund and pitch Willamette's a nice way to kind of diversify someone's portfolio and also maybe take on a cool project that they can take a piece of.
Would you be able to send us some more info? I mean, or I could just go find it, I guess. But I'm just thinking because as great as it would be for like a larger, well-established company to come in and have something here. I think what might be more likely is that there's someone local having businesses, and something like that might kind of get them the first step if they're kind of thinking about it. That might be the first step for them to start something here. I think that would be great to kind of share that out as much as we can, because I think that might be more likely that we have people local who wanna start something here,
It's true.
instead of from outside.
So we do, and I appreciate that Bridget Nunley is here from Willamina, because we like to remind sort of all of our city partners that this program, first of all, you can find all the information about Launch Mid Valley. We have a website, launchmidvalley.com. I was like, is it org.com? Launchmidvalley.com. When Eric refers to the Regional Innovation Hub, that's our designation from the state. We run our regional innovation hub. But our programming falls under the Launch Mid-Valley umbrella, and we do have a website. There's a calendar, and so it shows you, Councilor Houston, all of the calendar of events, right? Registration can be done through that website. It also would provide more information and access to touch points from our Angel Investor Network. But I want to remind folks, this is a regional program. It covers Marion, Polk, and Yamhill counties. Any business in the 3-county area already has access to this programming. And I am currently working with 2 businesses in Sheridan who are participating in the Launch Mid Valley initiative. So we do get we get participation from every city in the region, but we would love to have more information shared about the programming and love to see even more people come through the programming. So anything that you think would be beneficial in terms of the way that we share that information would be helpful. We do partner with the Chambers of Commerce and downtown associations, at least most of them, with reciprocal memberships to ensure that they get our newsletters and that we're sharing information. But I am certain that we have opportunities to do that better. So if you have ideas about that, I would love to hear from you.
And when we talk about, you may have mentioned it before, that how we define pretty broadly innovation. I mean, this is an opportunity for, we've had food products businesses that, that we just want to be sure it's not someone that just make great muffins and people want to buy them. It's like, is it scalable? Are they interested in growing the business? Is there a market for it? And quite often this comes kind of part and parcel with getting them exposure to a Roths or a New Seasons or market of choice and getting them on the shelves. We've had some good luck with that as well. Also connecting like entrepreneurs, so that if we talk about the coffee clubs, but we've also seen opportunities where a chocolate company is now using a local source of coffee, for their mocha. So I mean that's the kind of environment, the ecosystem we're trying to build. Is that we have places where people can come and just get support, get some reinforcement that their idea is good, get some tweaking for that. Maybe get some investment, some financing, get a mentor. It's a program that's really about developing the ecosystem for entrepreneurs in the region, and it ties into statewide. Oregon Entrepreneurs Network is one of our partners in that. So if it is, we've got a company in Donald called Canopy. They make fully automated greenhouses. It's pretty cool. They've been able to kind of take the next step and go to a couple of different other platforms, for bigger opportunities for them. Both the Oregon Entrepreneurs Network, they pitched at that one, and they've won the regional pitch, and they're going down to San Francisco to compete for $1 million in a group program there. So there's an infrastructure beyond just what we have in our region too that we help facilitate for folks that have the ability and are interested.
Okay.
And pflynn is a lot of fun to go see.
Oh, just to see it, it's cool.
Yeah, it's fun. So if you have the chance, we'll be sure that you know when it is. And but it's a fun couple of hours to watch these folks do their pitches, and quite often do a great job. Everyone's, or they're entertaining, or both.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you both for being here.
Well, thank you for your
Appreciate it.
time.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for your time, and thank you for your patience with my technical shortcomings.
Thank you.
One of the pages is being passed.
Can you get your email? I don't know if you still have the same email.
I'll send it out. I'll send out this with my email information. I'll get it so we can get it. Appreciate it.
Next up, we have the RFP for municipal software. Preston, you're gonna talk to us about that.
Yeah, I'll introduce it, I guess, and then turn to Amber for some more detail, but last month we shared the skate park RFP with the council and
Mhm.
Park and Rec Committee, and, this is the next, big collaborative effort to, identify the next software system, financial system for the city. Identifying all the criteria in here, but also the process. We would be asking proposers to, see how they meet these minimum qualifications, and then, the best ones come back and present to staff and have their questions answered. And at the end of the process, then they would be scored, and the preferred vendor would be, then recommended to council for purchasing that program.
Just real quick, as far as the RFP goes, was it, like which staff kind of gave input to that? Was it kind of just, you and Amber, or like the staff are gonna be using this type of software?
Same people that would be watching the proposals when they come back.
Oh, gotcha.
So, all the folks that in admin that work on the software system have been included in this. Amber, you wanna jump in and give a little more detail and, mention who all in City Hall?
Yeah, good evening, Mayor and Councilors. The entire front office of City Hall, so Marcy, Chrissy, Angela, myself, and Omega have had input into this RFP. We had discussions about what components are working well of our current software, what are not working well, which is more than the ones that are working well. As well as how we think the criteria might work. Of course, we're also asking you all to have some input in this. One of the components we felt was really important is also seeking some input from other users of whatever software we think might be the right choice, because we wanna know what are the experiences of other users, because we've learned with Tyler Tech, other users don't have positive experiences to share, and that becomes really important because those other users that are already using a system are going to tell us what our experience might be like once we switch. So, this is absolutely an opportunity for all of you to have some input into how do you want us to measure the next company based on the experiences you've had. What things are you wanting? What do you expect from a software system as a counselor? Special reports, those kinds of things. But also just making sure that you're active in the purchasing process, because that is a part of what you do as your fiduciary responsibility, is making sure that we're making wise choices by you participating as a part of this process.
Yeah, I think the criteria here, like fully comprehensive, integrated modules, I mean, that looks like all, financial, which, if it's gonna be financial stuff, that makes sense. I know when Tyler Tech was approved or, brought in, we, it sounded like it was gonna be able to do some other stuff, and it doesn't, but, I think one of them was gonna be able to, people are gonna be able to look at their meters and be able to track it real time, and then there's gonna be something about, maybe code is one of the modules, but there was it was like some other things, but I think since this is gonna be financial software, I think the main focus should be the financial part, and then if it does have add-ons that can do some of those things, then I guess that's just a plus, but I don't think we should necessarily focus on those add-ons. That's kind of, if we can get, then that's great, if we can get it from the software, but otherwise, I think the main thing we wanna look at is the financial part, because that's a big, important part of what we're doing here.
Staff has focused on the things that we absolutely must have. Financial software, a GL, accounts payable, accounts receivable, utility billing, and court. There are some softwares that add on building compliance or, building permit application processes, code compliance, other things. We're not focusing on those. We have a code software. It appears to be working well enough for all the things that we're doing currently. So while it might be great if they have those modules, if they have something extra they wanna pitch to us, we've asked them to do that as well. But that will not be weighed in the criteria necessarily, that would be a bonus for us.
Ian,
Could you expand on the application process for I think you said something about the city planning. What I'm getting at is, I'm wondering if we could reduce our costs, with the COG and our city planner if we had this process available online or through this software. Would that reduce it, or would we basically still be hiring them the same amount, the same amount?
That would be a to be determined. It would depend on what does the software offer and what does it do in lieu of human interaction. We have not yet sent out the RFP to get the pitches back, so we don't know what software companies are going to be able to offer us. But in this proposal, we've asked them, if you have additional modules, we wanna hear about it, and include that in the presentation so that we can decide, do we want to expand the scope or not as a part of this process.
Peter?
This is a little bit in my wheelhouse, so I have a lot of suggestions if you want to hear them.
Sure. Let me grab a piece of paper.
Sure, that's probably good. So first, it sounds like you're already having the main ones do a demo for you. Okay, cool, awesome. There's also, I found a site, rfp.wiki, that has a review aggregator for a lot of these different companies and softwares. They have this little review number that they do that's not super useful, but then they have a second number that's like aggregating all of the reviews across different websites. That's nice. When you get a quote, usually they're going to give you a cloud number, for their cloud service. I think it might be worth asking for an on-premise number as well, because usually they'll have a secret on-premise option, but you have to ask for it. A lot of the companies I saw that had really great software might not be in Oregon yet, so there's a line in section C that says, list of all municipal clients within the state of Oregon. I would change within the state of Oregon to a similar sized city or something to that effect, just so we have those options open. Like, a great example, if I can find it real quick. BSNA is a software that people really like, has everything we might need, but they don't have a city in Oregon using them yet. They have some in Idaho. So if we have that option open, they become available. Beyond that, it looks like companies have to come to us to submit proposals. Is it okay to solicit companies into offering proposals?
Absolutely.
Cool. That's everything I got.
Can I jump in on that? Oh, I'm sorry. And on page 3, the scoring, you can see how 20% of the value of the criterion for the RFP is based on references. Very important within the industry to have something that's established. We're not looking for cutting edge. We want folks on our listserv dealing with the same products, really, ideally. So that's why that is 20%.
Jim?
Does HR require any special software? I have no idea.
I wouldn't say requires special software. There are softwares that HR would absolutely be able to utilize and would add value to their workday. But again, we are focusing on absolute needs as opposed to a wish list, right? Because the wish list can get pretty big. But absolutely, there are softwares out there that can help HR individuals.
And I would imagine some of these would have some sort of module for HR since you're already having all the employee data in there.
Most of the softwares that deal with payroll have an HR component. However, that HR component really deals with comp and class, how much you're paid and how much per hour and whether or not you're a union. They don't necessarily deal with reviews, performance, and those other aspects of HR, managing benefits and those kinds of things. So there are softwares though that do that work.
Um,
Can we preferably get one not named Tyler?
Yes, please.
yeah, something not named after.
Uh,
So we don't get confused.
Mayor, you mentioned about, or was it Jim that mentioned about, the software for the water meters?
Yes.
Tied to our financial software. And, that very well could be an option for this too, not important. But that was a plan for Tyler Tech. But with the setup, the configuration, and I just didn't get pursued. So I think it was, the wrong choice for the city, and those add-ons, I don't know if many has one.
Yeah, I think this definitely has to be done, and I didn't see it in the criteria, but I'm sure, hearing from other, cities that have used software as far as, customer service and response time, I mean, I think 15 days is a little bit too long to hear back from a software company that's helping us out, so, I think that'll be a big piece of it too, is just how soon can we get help,
What
because,
level of support they offer
Yeah.
and how timely are their responses. Tyler Tech's experience in January of this year, we put in a ticket for assistance with W-2s and 1099s. It took them over 15 days to respond, which took us past the deadline to file. So we had to work with other agencies to get some assistance on, manually calculating some of that, without the software's assistance before they responded.
Jim?
Yeah, I think, at least me personally, I'm a little hesitant of any software company because when we put the meters in, they said, you could be able to get on your cell phone and watch your house's meter run. They said nothing about having to go through any other software to do that. Now, what I'm understanding is our software that runs the water part doesn't work with Tyler Tech, so that's why that hasn't been come to fruition. Is that correct?
I'm gonna look to Omega because I'm not familiar with that promise and whether, or how it was not delivered, because I know it was not.
There are two promises made. The very first one was the program that deals with our meters is called Weedy. And that one, we have bought the portion where people were able to look at going there, but we would have had to set them up. And that was roughly the same time we were implementing Tyler Tech. So we were told to hold off on that one, do the implementation, and then get the other stuff started again. But we learned that Tyler Tech also had similar capabilities. So, and it was already bought. So basically now we had two softwares that could communicate, we just had to link them. But essentially they were saying, and we're going to do this exactly same thing. And then new management arrived and it just didn't get pursued.
So the VD, whatever that's called, could still be.
Essentially, yes, but it will, people will still have to create a whole new account number.
It'd be different from their.
It would be
city
very
stuff.
different from what we already are asking people to do, which is go into the payment portal from our website through Tyler Tech.
Mm.
They will have to set up in a whole new different link with VD and essentially have two account numbers. And that's the part that the softwares don't seem to link up as much as we wanted them to.
I guess if the new software doesn't link them, there is that option for people who really want to be able to track it.
Well, not
If we
anymore,
start-
because
oh.
that ended, that part of the contract ended with VD.
Oh, okay, so we'd have to start that.
So we would have to start it over again.
Oh, okay,
And that's very costly.
okay. So we could have, but we did right now, okay.
Again, I think that goes back to what I just said, we're a little hesitant because we hear great things and then, well, it didn't work. Same with Tyler Tech. Oh, Tyler Tech was gonna do just everything, butter our bread when we walked in the door, I mean, it was gonna do everything.
Well,
No, it doesn't.
I think that's kind of, and it's fairly recent for all of us that, you know, I think we're just gonna be, you're saying kind of more cautious, but maybe paying more attention to the whole process and maybe being a little bit more involved in this. So I appreciate being able to look at the actual RFP that's gonna be going out, because that's what we're gonna be, this is what's the basis of what we're gonna get. I think being able to have more updates and kind of more involved in that process, I think will make a lot of us feel better, since we did not long ago get to
Yeah, and requiring references will allow us to talk to others who are using their software, and if they make a promise that we're gonna have this great thing where meter customers can look at their meters, we can ask the other agencies that are using them, how did that go? Did implementation go well? Does it actually work? Do your clients have to have 2 accounts? All of those kinds of things that we're learning as we go with the current software.
We are gonna strive to only promise things we can guarantee. That's why we under promise and over deliver. It's a good way to manage your affairs.
This concept, we just
My
haven't been
principles.
introduced to it for very long.
So on page 3, there's one paragraph there that kind of sums it up pretty well. Right above, right in the middle of the page, it says, alternate solutions that meet or exceed outline requirements can be submitted for consideration. Otherwise, this proposal has minimum qualifications. And these will all include separate pricing, purchase, acquisition, training, data conversion, additional modules, services, and support. I mean, that is about as general as you can get. Meaning a proposer can list whatever they think we need. Aside from the bare minimum, list everything you got.
Okay.
And the pricing that goes with all that. And then we can see. You heard Amber mention the setup being critical. When you buy a financial system like that, you set it up. And you set it up to begin with just exactly how you need it. So it's a very important process. Everybody's involved, and we make sure we get it right. That was not done the last time. We're not gonna make that mistake with this. And this is what we've been talking about, is collaborative decision making. Important decisions, whether they're administrative or policy, involve everybody. The outcomes are better. So this is good to get feedback from folks. Peter had suggestions, other people. We wanna get this out the door, get this thing back, in, early September.
So is it gonna go out about August 8th? Do you have it out for about a month?
Yeah,
Does
the
that work?
intent would be to have it out the end of this week,
Oh,
first of next. Leave it out there for about 4 weeks, so there's time for software companies to see it, build a proposal, respond, ask us questions. Any good software company will ask us questions, some of which we've answered preemptively in the RFP. How many employees we have, how many systems we have, how many funds, what kind of reports do we want. We have included information in the RFP of all of those minimum things, just to help them have a launching point. But fully expecting they'll have more questions if they're worth the effort.
Alright, so when we come back to council, in likely, could be October-ish, you know, we'll be able to explain the process, how we applied the criteria, evaluated each of the proposals, and here's the preferred one, why we think it's great. Basically everybody that has anything to do with finance on the staff side will be involved in that process, and they have been so far in the RFP. So this is important decision that affects everybody. We're all gonna be involved.
Yeah, Ian.
I was just gonna say, thank you, Preston, to you and the outstanding staff that you've assembled here, for leading us through the poor choices of previous administrations to get us into the software that's gonna be right for the city. I really appreciate the transparency that's coming out of City Hall lately. Thank you.
more of a statement than a question, and I don't know if you have thought of this, but when we do look at proposals that come in and they give above and beyond what we're hoping for, I think it's important to think about asking, can we potentially add these on later, or do we have to do it now? Or is there an incentive for us to do it now versus later? Because I think the more we can get out of this process upfront and know that we have the potential to grow with it is an important step in making the right decision long term.
That's a very good point, and that is a part of why in this request, we've said, if you have other modules that you wanna offer us, we wanna know. We wanna know the pricing, the cost of training, the cost of implementation, all of those things about those additional things as well. That will help us make decisions about, do we add it on? Is this the right time for that? Do we put it on the back burner and implement it later? What does that take for that software company to do that?
Okay, any other questions on this? We'll be interested to see what we get.
One other question, how are we promoting these, how are we finding these other companies? I know we can look for companies ourselves and submit this to them, but who are we sending this out to, and how are we picking these companies? And are we limiting ourselves, or are we sending a large blanket out because there may be companies out there that we're not aware of? How are we how are we finding these companies?
So we'll be advertising on our website, we'll be sending it through the finance officers listserv because they allow software companies to participate in that listserv, so there's opportunity there for them to pick it up. Preston, are we doing the DJC?
Yes, Daily Journal Commerce, yes.
Does the LOC or COG have a section on their pages for RFPs?
COG does have a section on their page, they let us do that for free, so we could do that.
I didn't think they let us do anything for free.
Well, I'm sure there might be an incremental cost for the posting time, but the actual posting to the web itself is a free service that they offer. And then we can self-solicit, in other words, mail these RFPs to companies that we think might be interested or might have products that we wanna hear about.
Is there but I know we're kind of, focusing on companies that have a presence in Oregon, but is there any sort of national RFP type, posting area, or is it we're just kind of doing the more local ones?
I don't particularly know if there's something national, that's something I'll have to look for.
Well, I mean, even though these are local ones, I mean, the national companies are gonna look at it anyways, they're looking for, opportunities, but I just was wondering.
And with the, implementation of AI, we're finding that there are folks out there farming council meeting minutes and soliciting to us that, hey, we saw in your council meeting on this date that you're gonna be doing new financial software, how do I get an RFP? I already have 2 requests of that nature sitting there just waiting for us to get through this part of the process.
Okay.
Any big contractor is going to be looking at the Daily Journal Commerce. Every large public project is there. This being on just a 200,000 software, it's not a big public works project. It's not. So even though the Daily Journal Commerce gets out there and people are going to look at that, and AI is bringing people in. That's causing staff, we'll talk about that at staff meeting, how to manage. It's supposed to be helping us a little bit, but we really aren't looking for a diamond in the rough. We want something proven. We want clients in Oregon. There's probably 4 firms in Oregon that cover a lot of cities. We're sending it out to them, so the intention really isn't to find a diamond in the rough. We don't want cutting edge.
Good.
Yeah, we want proven durability.
And we don't wanna be a beta client.
No.
Well,
I feel like a beta client, and I have been since I walked in the door with
Any other comments about this? Okay, alright, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Alright, so next we've just got, mayor councilor comments. I'm gonna talk real quick about Willamina's National Night Out. National Night Out's going out, you know, across the county and country and everything, but, Willamina's putting one on, it's actually pretty big, it might be one of the larger ones in the whole county, but, if anyone's interested, I think they start at 6 tomorrow and they've got it looks like we're first in C Street. I've got a little map of stuff. They've got sponsors this year that Starbucks is gonna be there, which I was surprised. But they've got like Juliet's house there, YCOM, I think is gonna be doing like a simulation of what they get when they get calls, which might be interesting for people to see how that all goes on. But then some of their, like the 4th of July committee is gonna be there, Hampton's gonna be there. Looks like OSU is gonna be there. And then, I recognize Shack, that's the child care center here in town by all preps, they're gonna be there too. Let's say there's 18 different spots, but, you know, and well, looks like they're gonna have a band too, but the big thing, you know, as far as I understand, National Night, it's usually a lot of the public safety, but I think they're starting to add, you know, more information and just kind of resources for our area. So I wanted to mention that, cause me and Preston met with, Willamina's mayor and, Bridget the other day, and this is one of the things, I wanted to share, cause I think there seems pretty well established, and it's right next door.
They've been doing that for a while, haven't they?
I think so. I think they said it's like their 5th, maybe. I can't remember for sure, but I know they've been doing it for a while.
Definitely, they're interested in having more presence from Sheridan, nonprofits and others. Caden, our community services coordinator and code compliance officers, will be there tomorrow night. Have a lot of the flyers to pass out on our pedestrian mobility chart we've got with the scooters and everything and all the requirements. Get that out there, you know, and we can definitely do more to jump on next year.
Yeah, I'll be there just visiting, but I think, you know, if we wanna start having more of a presence there just at the city, like I know, I think their library is gonna be there, I don't know if we wanna join them. My thought is that they've got this already, you know, pretty well established. If we wanna start having our presence be there instead of kind of competing with them, I think that might be a better approach than to try and have our own that, you know, from scratch, and I don't wanna pull away from kind of the event, because it seems like it's pretty well established and they've got a lot going on over there. So.
Well, and you bring the sheriff's office, state patrol, perhaps the National Guard, you know, all of these different units, all on the same night. So a regional event like this is, can get bigger, you know, if we all participate.
I think that was the main thing that I might have, some other things I'm gonna be trying to, meet with, Andrea Salinas in a couple of weeks. I think she's gonna be in the area. She's our United States, Congress rep for our area. And they reached out to me, they wanna meet, you know, I think they're just kind of meeting everybody in the whole area. I didn't have to ask, which was kind of nice, but, so hopefully that, it'll be actually after our next meeting, so I won't have any updates next week for that, but, that'll be interesting. I think at that meeting, we might talk about, you know, some of the projects we have going on, just, you know, see if there's anything missing from a list that I'm gonna talk to her about, if anybody has something, so.
You've got a draft of projects.
Yeah.
Narrative.
Yeah, so just see if anybody has anything else to add on there, but, we'll share that next meeting, but, that's what I have, so far. Anybody Denny?
Just a few things, the apartment complex on Chalet is looking really good, they're going after it. And now I see back down on Sheridan Road, it's a tiny home court that's supposed to be going in. There's activity there again, I'm glad to see that. But I'm not happy is, I haven't seen anything happening at the Hebert Plaza or the park in over a month.
Over the park?
There's no equipment there, there's all sorts of work to be done. This is the time to get that boat launch in. The creek or the river's not gonna get any lower. So I don't know what's going on there.
Well, likely you are going to have a decision to make at the next council meeting. That's August 17th.
You have,
That'll do it.
is that it? Okay. Okay,
So also down at the riverfront, there is, so this all has to do with what's going on the 17th and because there's,
I'm not sure why.
evidently there's extreme amounts of dirt piled very close to the river. And it is, when it starts raining, that will be dispersed. And there's neighbors down there that are concerned of it jeopardizing their property. And I said that they were well founded. I said, honestly, I don't know what's going on either, other than this little squabble thing. And I said that could be a deterrent. And of course, it has been brought to the neighbor's attention that obviously, it's the city's fault. But you probably understand that. I haven't driven back there to see the mounds of dirt. And speaking of mounds of dirt, down on Sheridan Road where the 18-unit subdivision is, and I have been down there, there's extreme piles of dirt in there. And there's an extremely high berm, and they're digging the road down, but it looks like when they get done, the road's gonna be higher than the property owner's adjoining property. And if you build it higher than the properties that are level with them, it's going to cause runoff into the adjoining neighbors' properties. And I'd hate to see something on Skyline Drive happen where they built the road up 20 foot and then it drained downhill. And somebody said, well, just wait for it to happen, wait for it to get finished, but I feel that it should be brought to their attention before it's finished so they can correct it so there's not a mistake that needs to be addressed. Because if you drive down there, there's a big pile of dirt and there is a big berm and it's running north right onto the big blue house has got a big lot. I haven't talked to him, but it's been brought to my attention that the neighbors there are also concerned with the direction of the drainage. If they build the road up higher than its present height, it's going to cause not only runoff, but hard to get access into those properties that butt up to that street.
So what's the location of this berm?
It's where that 18-unit subdivision is with a manufactured home on Sheridan Road. And then somebody had, if I remember right, at one of our meetings, I don't know if it was June or July, when we had the speed bump questions, which are still coming in, that Sheridan Road was going to be fixed, repaired, or something was going to be done and it would make a difference. But I've been driving down Sheridan Road and I don't see anything changing from that time when the speed bumps were requested by the neighbors till now. It's just the same.
well, Lucy, we just had a conversation with the engineer last week about going out.
I know that, but what you said back then and you told the public was that you were going to do it. And
We are, that's what we're getting the engineer
no, it was
to
supposed
do.
to be done in June or July.
Did we say June or July,
Yes,
or did we
you
say it was
did,
gonna start in
Because
summer?
I said, do you mean June or July? And they said yes. And you're talking about transparency and the people on Sheridan Road are watching and they're not seeing anything happening. And yes, it was said.
Was it? Did you go
Yes.
back and watch?
I don't have to go back and watch because I'm the one that questioned you in the first place.
Okay, well, we had the engineer here to.
I already know about that. I'm talking about, when you talk
Okay,
about
what do you want
trans-
us to do then? Do you want us to stop, or what do you want us to do?
they want this temporary speed bumps in.
Okay, well, if you can get me a proposal for that, then that would be great, because I don't wanna just sit here and keep hearing you say speed bumps, speed
Well,
bumps, speed
because
bumps.
I represent the people.
Well, so do I, Lucy.
Oh,
We all
everyone
do.
here represents the people. We're all here for the people,
Well, then
not
how
just
come you're
you.
not listening to the people when they come in here and
Two
talk to you?
people can come in and say something.
No, there's
Lucy,
the other
whether or
ones
not
that
something-
didn't wanna come in because you see this attitude right here? They don't wanna be subject to it.
What this attitude is, Lucy, is that we're trying to do what's best for the people of Sheridan. Just because somebody comes in and says they should do this does not mean that we should. You did not provide us with any proof of a reason to put in speed bumps. All you said was that there was people that we should.
So if they do the petition, like I did that once before, and I brought a signed petition in about the lot across the street that was absolutely ignored, is that gonna have any benefit on you? Because the lesson learned there was, you can have somebody sign a petition.
Well,
but-
who should we listen to?
The
Should we
people
listen
who
to-
sign it.
We shouldn't listen to any engineers or traffic engineers, structural engineers,
The
or just the
fact of the
people.
matter is, you lied to the public.
We're not talking about that. I'm talking about speed
I'm
bumps.
talking about that. I'm
Okay,
talking
well, I'm
about what
talking
you
about
said at
speed
that
bumps.
meeting. Well, I'm talking about what led up to it, because you said, oh, the street's gonna be fixed, it's gonna be done. They said, why can't, and I did, why can't you just do it temporary until it's done? Because it doesn't have to be a permanent speed bump. There's little drills, there's little planks that you can screw them in and out. It was obviously brought to Preston's attention on Water Street,
And he recommended not to do it.
and he recommended not to do it.
And Kai recommended not to do it. So Wes recommended not to do it. So,
So
who
the
who
people-
are we going to listen to? The engineers
So-
and experts who were paying for
Well,
these
you know, they're not
opinions, or
driving
just
by your place, so you don't really notice it, but it's driving by their places and it does bother them.
that on Sheridan Road that they need this?
I was
resource?
talking about Water Street, if you were listening to me.
Okay.
And they did come and talk to Preston, and Preston said something. I asked them to come in here tonight, and they said, I don't think I want to come in there. And I can see why.
Why?
Because of this attitude.
What is the attitude?
You're not listening to the people.
I'm
You're putting
listening-
it on me, which is great, because you know what, I can take it. This is a bunch of BS coming up. But the people are the ones that don't want to come in here and say anything. But maybe I'll suggest that they get a petition. Maybe you'll listen to that, because you certainly don't listen to me, and I'm listening to them.
Lucy, I would listen to you if you made sense. None of what you said has made any sense.
Yeah, it does.
To who? You?
ODOT even came in here.
No, one guy, Danny, said, well, maybe you should
25
do
years
that.
that has responsibility
Who
and
is
designated
not
on
in
that
charge of
street.
the program that you keep talking about he's in charge of, Lucy? That's not relevant to what we're talking about now.
I talked to another person from ODOT and said that was not anything you could even do. So what are we doing? Are we just talking to individuals that we want that like their answers, or are we gonna actually listen to facts, opinions, people who do this for a living? We're just gonna do things that we wanna
You're
do.
gonna take somebody else over the opinion of what the people who live on the street think?
Well, it depends. Is what the people are suggesting even something we can even do? Is it legal? Is it feasible?
They
Or
do it
is
in
it just
Little
something
Minot, they do it
Where?
on 3rd Street,
They put speed bumps on,
right in front of the park. Go drive down it, they're made out of cement.
okay? How many people go down that
Right
road
in
as
front of
compared
her-
to Sheridan Road, which is, as you know, a major
You always
collector?
have something to counteract anything.
Right, because I'm trying to make
happen.
good decisions that actually make sense, not just something that you think should be done. It
It's
doesn't make
not
any
me,
sense.
Cal.
Do you want it done?
I'm listening to the people that say they want you to listen to them and have it done, have you consider it instead of saying, no, we're not gonna do it because we don't like speed bumps. That's the message you're giving out to the people.
You're right, because no one we've talked to has recommended to do speed bumps except for the two people that came in here.
Well, you know, I'm glad there's an election coming up. Because then the people can vote for people who might actually listen to them instead of having their own agenda. Especially when you brag about transparency and, you under promise and over deliver those same things. And I'm glad, because this is out on record and Joe's recording it so the people can hear it.
I'm very anti-speed bump, apparently.
You're not the only one.
Point of order, the councilors exceeded her 3 minutes. Can we move on, Chairman?
Jim, go ahead.
What we tell the people is we listen to people that do that job as their job. They fix roads, they look at traffic, they look at things. If I want something on my street, and I say, damn it, I want you to come out and fix my street, and I'm the only one, or there's 3 of my neighbors want it, and the engineers say, well, that's just not gonna work, Buckles, that just doesn't happen. Does that mean I lied to them? You lied to me? No, it just means they have opinions, and we appreciate them. However, we go with experts that do it for a living, and they say that won't work. And I think we have to listen to them versus people that don't have the expertise to give us good information. I'm not saying we lie to them. I'm not saying we don't like them. I'm just saying, as Cale said, who do we listen to? People that really want something done no matter what? Or do we listen to people that are experts in the field? We listen to the experts and act accordingly once we get that information. Is that so bad?
Well, you've made some decisions that weren't really good before when people had suggested, just like even some of the items that have been brought up at city council meetings. And so I think that you should listen to what the people have to say and then look in that venue. Look in the venue that they're asking about, especially in a crappy street that temporarily needs to be repaired and it's not getting fixed. And it hasn't been getting fixed for years.
Well, Lucy, you've been on this council longer than I have.
Yeah.
Why didn't you do anything sooner?
Because it's same like this. It's like this, Cal, and guess who the big thumb is? It's me. 5 to 1 doesn't get anything done.
Well, it sounded like prior councils just made the decision not to.
There've been poor decisions made before, absolutely.
But I mean, it's, as far as I can tell, the engineer was here last week, or last meeting.
I was here, I heard him saying that, but it didn't have anything to do with what was said 2 months prior, either June or July, that they would see definite changes on Sheridan Road. Why did you say it if you didn't mean it?
Are they not gonna see definite changes? I'm not sure.
In June or July, I don't see any changes on Sheridan Road other than Skelly Street's being built on and 18 units are being built on.
Okay. I don't recall saying specifically when, but I'll go back and look and see exactly what
I don't know who said it was said. I said it was said.
Because you said I said it not long ago. And you
Well-
said I was lying about it. So was I or not? Because if you're gonna be calling me a liar, you better be accurate.
Well, you know what? It was said in June or July.
What I'm asking is,
I don't, go get the
were
paper and
you-
look it up.
if you're gonna call me a liar, I want you to make sure of it, okay? Because that's not
Well,
something I
do you-
appreciate, because I do not lie.
Well, you know what, I'm not saying that you lied, but I'm saying it was said at council, so are you not responsible? Aren't you the mayor to make sure these things are addressed?
Yeah, that's why there's an engineer here 2 meetings ago telling us this, they're gonna go out for bid for it. You want it fixed or not? It's gonna come here, and Joe, I appreciate you coming up, but I'm gonna go ahead and listen to Ian real quick.
I'd like to point out that this is an ongoing problem, that Councilor Hebert is in violation of our rules and procedures at almost every meeting. And I'm sick and tired of Councilor Hebert dominating our time for things that she could clearly email someone about, that she could follow up on her own. And I'm really tired of it, and I would prefer for the council to take note that she's continually in violation of our rules and procedures every single meeting. That's all.
Thank you. I would like to, Lucy, I don't know what happened with you and me communicating, but we have not communicated in a very long time outside of council. I'm not sure if I did something to offend
Because you
you,
went to
but
meetings up till 6, so I have to, I used to come here at 7.
that's why.
I
That's why you're not
work-
talking to your mayor about issues in the cities, because
What,
we
you
moved
mean
the
like the
meeting
one on
time.
FEMA? Go look it up yourself and let me know how it
Yes,
goes?
because
Yeah.
I did. I told you, you weren't happy with it, so I said
No.
you do it.
I work for a living.
So do I. What do you think I'm doing?
Well,
I've got 2 kids
are you
under
yelling? Is there
4.
a need for you to raise your voice
I've got
at
2
me?
kids under 4 at
Not
home.
going deaf
I
or
have a
anything.
wife. I have a full-time job, and I am here, and I'm doing
Yeah.
as much as I can to help the city. And I do not appreciate you talking to me like that, because I'm lying. I'm not doing my job.
You
I
have
don't
a right to
appreciate
your own
it.
opinion.
Meeting is adjourned. 7:42.
Oh, recording stopped.
Sorry, Peter.
Made that better.
Hi, Joe.
Hey, I was just say it was just a law. It's a law enforcement thing. Deputy Grant was doing a great job, and they're hammering out there. So
Oh, is he? Oh,
they're out there.
I thought something was going on.
No, I was going to say that, as mentioned before, it's a law enforcement issue. It's not a city thing. I was going to just try and calm the thing down. That's okay. It's fine. But Deputy Grant and them have been hammering and doing, like you said before, they've been ticketing people. I think it was 80-something% that they stopped on Sheridan Road. So there has been some slowing down of people, so that has improved. He did mention that a lot in the meetings.
Right.
So
Yeah, I know you gotta really hammer them, and people are upset, can be upset because they call in and they don't get issues. But something I learned was YCOM actually has their own board.
Yes.
So if people do have concerns and are upset about it, they can go to YCOM's board and kind of report those issues. And that I haven't shared that yet, but I think that is important to know. And that'll be something I mentioned. If people do raise concerns, this is the whole board. This is the whole other.
Yeah.
There's another layer of government here too.
There is.
Okay.
I only see your face on
Sure. Okay. I wouldn't mind that one.